Pittsburghers for Public Transit started in 2010. And this was in the wake of many service cuts and fare increases.
PPT essentially was a coalition to fight against the cuts.
There was a lot of narrative around Port Authority having this big spending problem and saying, oh, drivers make too much money. These riders said this isn't fair. There was a funding crisis, not a spending crisis. There was a proposal in 2012 for the transit system to be slashed by 35%. And that was something that PPT came out in coalition with many other organizations to stop.
There were picket lines, there were rallies, there were leaflets, there was all kinds of stuff, even some civil disobedience.
12 of us blocked the intersection in front of Governor Corbett's office in downtown Pittsburgh to highlight what would happen if our transit service was cut. We also worked with people to go with hundreds into the Capitol Rotunda in Harrisburg and showed support for how important it was for a bill to be passed.
It was necessary to have at least some basic funding for public transit. It took some time. We were told, no, you're not going to win, but we won.
In 2013, Pennsylvania passed Act 89, restoring transit funding.
When Act 89 passed, Port Authority said, we don't have to make more cuts, but we can't restore the service that was cut. And we said, well, what about all the people who lost their service and are stranded? And they said, well, sorry. A few drivers knew really well places where people had lost their service. One driver suggested a neighborhood, this is Baldwin, and we said, let's see what the response is like. We didn't know. We just have to go knock on people's doors. And we went out and canvassed the neighborhood and collected about 500 surveys. We got a little committee of people together from those surveys and then planned a community meeting, and at the first meeting, 80 people came. They came up with doing a petition, lots of other ideas, including this walk for transit, where they wanted to invite decision makers to walk the distance they have to walk to get to a bus. And then from there, a driver found out about the work we were doing and said, well, I know some communities who are really affected, and she got connected with riders near Coriopolis and Moon and Groveton who rallied their own neighborhood. I mean, we called one person to get a meeting going, and we showed up at the meeting, and I was like, oh, I wonder how many people, and 60 people showed up. Do you want to get some of these signed in Groveton?
Petition signatures and what else?
And that was the foundation of this.
And you went out and did all the hard work. You canvassed, you called people, you rallied in the cold and in the rain, and you won.
Since Baldwin and Groveton got their service extended in September, more communities are coming out and ready to fight to get better transit service. The only way these campaigns work is because there were enough engaged volunteer residents and engaged PPT members.
In 2015, the Port Authority instituted a new equitable service request policy. A plan for new bus rapid transit had a problem. It required reducing service to the Mon Valley, one of the most transit-dependent areas in Allegheny County.
The 61 A, B, and C are not going to become BRT routes, and their frequency is going to decrease. Right now, we're proposing that could be as much as 45%.
When you provide faster bus service for a certain group of people, but cut bus service for another group of people, that's unfair.
Braddock was never contacted. We did not have a seat at the table.
We need the 61B to go all the way downtown.
This is a broad-based coalition that comes from very different sectors with different interests who are working together.
And instead said, why don't we make the 61 A, B, and C all BRT routes?
We are acutely aware that we didn't listen the first time.
In the end, instead of losing service, Mon Valley riders gained more.
The Port Authority is intending to start using armed police and criminal charges just to collect bus fare.
There is a very real potential for tragedies to occur, and Port Authority has no accountability system in place whatsoever.
My work kids, they have autism, and they can become very anxious and will not understand exactly what's going on when they are approached by a Port Authority police officer. I don't want to see my work kids on the news dead because of $2.75 fare.
Tireless coalition pressure made the Port Authority give up on armed fare enforcement.
We're here today because of the proposed Mon-Oakland connector that would carve into Shenley Park and bulldoze through Panther Hollow and the Run.
They want this roadway when they have a road that literally runs parallel.
Cyclists who use the existing trail would have to mingle with autonomous vehicles. Multiple experts have told us that shoehorning this roadway into the much-needed EPA-mandated 4-mile run watershed improvement plan would compromise flood control.
It's like, either they go for this or they don't get their flooding problem fixed.
My neighbors learned of the plan from a 2015 Pittsburgh Post-Gazette article reporting it as a done deal, and we've been fighting it ever since.
When they say roadway, we say no way.
They come into a community and band together
Faced with so much opposition to this plan, the newly elected Mayor Gainey scrapped it. For years, PPT has campaigned for reduced fares for low-income riders.
We're asking you guys to make it fair for the people that cannot afford to pay.
I'm a great-grandmother who only get $565 a month, but I save $150 of my money because my daughter and my granddaughter goes to work. So I have to help my children so they can make it to work. I'm going to make that sacrifice for mine. So I need you to make that sacrifice for us.
This chart is the work that we've done in existing campaigns as well as the feedback that we got from folks like income-based fares.
We're announcing our Fair Fares platform at a critical juncture here in the city of Pittsburgh, where the intersecting crises of inequitable transit, housing, and environmental injustice are coming to a head.
Free fare for low-income riders.
In 2022, a pilot program began to test reduced fares with a sample of low-income riders.